No. So yeah, that's it then, innit? League's done pretty much, as we all knew anyway. And top four, I think we'll still get it, despite a few people crying over it. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, well, I just said to you there, didn't I? Chelsea seems to have like new manager syndrome with Tuchel coming in. They've had three. Was it a draw and then 3 wins they've had, or a draw and then 2 wins? So whenever new managers come in, the team always seems to be buoyed, don't they, and get a few good results.
Yeah.
Allardyce did it against us, got a draw, didn't he, in his first or second game. So I think Chelsea are the ones to worry about, because I keep feeling like West Ham, Villa, Everton will drop off, but then they just don't seem to be doing it as yet, because it's just a bit of a freak season, isn't it?
Everton have got the best manager, haven't they? In Ancelotti, the one who's been there and done it. Like, I wouldn't, because Tuchel's not in that category yet, but obviously got the better squad. I don't know. I think we need 4 points minimum in it out of the next 2. If we can, as long as we don't lose to either the next 2, Leicester and Everton, then.
Yeah, well, Leicester's become a big game now, hasn't he? And I suppose the only good thing is Klopp's got a full week on the training field with them, hasn't he? Which he always comments on, saying how beneficial that is, and especially trying to blood these new centre backs in, getting them on the training pitch will be crucial, won't it? So I'm a bit more hopeful, but Leicester.
Do you know when I think we had 10 days off, and we were all like, "Oh, we'll come back strong." So now, as you say, fair points. He's always on about the training ground, and we just didn't make any a difference with it. Leicester's probably the perfect game because they're going to play, aren't they? And we're going to play, and we're better than them. But I was just thinking about like performances at the start of the before we come online there, and this year for me, Wolves and Leicester have been our best performances of the season. We just battered Leicester and Wolves. We just battered them off the park. We played such good football. It's a good game to come back, but I think we were all commenting on it yesterday. He wants to just throw the 2 young centre-halves in, or at least one of them in, and put Fabinho and Hendo, or both, or one, back in the midfield.
Well, there was no Davies, was there? Not even on the bench. And I haven't actually seen anyone mention anything about that, but it's a bit strange that he wasn't available because he picked up a knock already.
I think he was at the ground though, you know. I seen him there.
Yeah, but to not be named on the bench is a bit strange. Maybe they just don't want 2 centre-backs. Well, but Phillips was there. And Neco Williams as well, so there was room for Davies if you pulled one of them out. But
Dave's favourite player, Williams.
Which one?
Right. Neco Williams.
Fucking hate the pair of them, don't I?
And where you say like the perfect game, I think certainly I said that about United. Both games, the league game and the FA Cup game, it'll be the perfect game to bounce, like a big game, isn't it? Especially when you go in there to Old Trafford, they'll be up for it, and then both games just never went our way, did they?
But they don't play, do they? That's the thing. Like with City, we were all texting and voice noting and what have you. Steve was like, reply to me all the while through half time. But we were having narrative, weren't we? We were all said, the game's there. The game is there to be taken. If we would have scored first half, we would have run riots on them.
It was still 1-1 on 70 minutes. Like, and then he it was just before that he done the Milner for Jones substitution. And I put that video on yesterday and I was like, trying to rationalise it. Is that like what Mancini used to do with Yaya Toure when he bring Nigel de Jong on? And then Toure, I was like, well, maybe Klopp's like doing something genius here. And then he brought Milner on and then fucking the floodgates opened. Not that it was Milner's fault.
No, but Jones was covering a lot of ground defensively. Like there was a sequence where they were in on goal. There was no one there. And Jones just put on the afterburners and smoked someone. Smoked his boots and just left someone for dead. And he just intercepted the ball. Like it was the best game he's probably had for us in 3 months. And sometimes like Klopp substitutions just like burn my head out, Like, he's a shit subber.
Yeah, well, I think he should have been the first sub against Brighton. I can't think who he brought on. He brought Shaqiri on, didn't he? And someone else. And you think he come on against West Ham and like straight away made an impact, didn't he? We scored where Milner was doing the whole speaking to Klopp.
Oh, that was
and
fun.
then the game was essentially the same against Brighton. You know, they're sitting in, not really minding, a 0-0. It's going their way. So you think the sitting back, it was almost like for like against the West Ham game. So you think if it worked on Sunday and only come on for 20 minutes or whatever, 25 minutes, he's obviously got it in his legs. That's the only thing I thought why he come off. Still very young lad. Maybe he felt like he ran himself into the ground, but certainly for Milner, it was a bit of a strange one. Like,
no, I thought that. I was like trying to make excuses for him why he brought him on. And it was like, is it because he's young? He's only 20, but he's played a few 90-minute games, hasn't he? And you should have like the biggest lungs on the pitch at that age, probably. But next game, though, he's got to put one of the new boys in at defence because
definitely
there's nothing to lose now. Like, you know, although it wasn't any like defensive errors yesterday on the pitch, obviously Trent doesn't stick his leg out, but you know, direct defensive errors apart from the goalkeeper, big one. But look, we've tried centre mids in defence now. They're not bad, but they're not defenders. Got the results against West Ham, but the next two games, I'll just be done with it now. Put the midfielders back in midfield. Just try this Kabach.
You don't even need to try the new ones, though. That's what's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you've got Nat Phillips, who's been playing all season. So it's not like you've got to risk your, I don't know, put your balls on the line for Kabach or Davies because, you know, Nat Phillips has done a splendid job this season. So even if you put him in and moved one of the midfields back, you can. I mean, what you've just said there about no defensive mistakes other than Alisson, Trent gave the ball away for the first goal. The ball come to him on the edge of our box and he's tried to clear it. He's mishit it. It's gone straight to their player. He's passed it to Sterling. Sterling's roasted him and then he scored. And I was talking to Matt and I was saying, like, I even kind of felt like Alisson could have done better on that one. Because the shot he parries it straight out of feet.
No, but there's still a bit of a passage in play though. It's not like Trent's pass led to a goal. You know what I'm saying? But it is.
The pass went to the man right back to Sterling, and he ripped him. It was
that. I know, but been done for the pen as well, hadn't he? So he led him onto his right foot for the pen, Arnold, and then
he could have fouled outside the box.
And that first goal, obviously they've had half time, haven't they? But he's done the same thing again, and it's like letting Salah onto his left. You do not do it. Put him to the byline. Who are they playing? City with any height? No one. They're like us, aren't they? Where you think he's going to put one in on his left foot, and they win it in the air. They're not going to win in the air against Fabinho and Henderson, are they? So show him to the left and then deal with the cross if it does come in, because more likely he'll chop back onto his right, but you can't let him go inside you there. And he did it twice.
Yeah.
One cost us a pen, and the second time cost us the goal.
I wouldn't say the first goal was a defensive error. I'd just say it's really, really bad defending. Like, stick your leg out. He gets to that ball if he sticks his foot out. Why he didn't, I don't know. But on Salah's goal, when we got the penalty, a lot of his passes won that deep right back position. He picks the man out, but some of them are just hitting hope. Like, Ruben Diaz should have cleared that. Like that.
Well, it was nearly a great ball, wasn't it? But it was slightly overhit, and Diaz should have put that in the stands. Like, that was a mistake from him, wasn't it? Like, say
the pundits were like, "Oh, great ball from Trent. Yeah, good spot." But if Diaz just does what he should do, then we don't even get a penalty. Like, if Salah's not even in there, but he botched it anyway, and we scored from it. And then like, it's just mad thinking it was still 1-1 on 70 minutes to what it ended up being. Like, ridiculous.
It was just a crazy 3 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, almost 2/3 of the game there. I wouldn't say we were on top, like battering the goal, peppering it, but we definitely had lion's share of the ball, did we?
Yeah.
They had the first 20 minutes, I remember that, and then the second part of the first half, we just took over, to my knowledge. And just typical Liverpool, isn't it, though? Shit defensive errors and shit defensive mistakes leading to fucking points dropped again.
Like this season, the first half, I suppose, or like you say, in the second half of the first half, dominating or, playing well, but without doing anything. And, the pen doesn't even come. I mean, the goal doesn't even come from open play. There was no really meaningful shots on goal, was there? There was the Firmino volley, but Ederson was clearing that up all day. Like, it was a good strike. It was a half-decent effort, but that's never going to go in unless it had gone to the other post. But
No.
And then apart from that, was there any other big chances where you think?
No.
And it's the way we're losing, dropping points, isn't it? Like, we're not raining shots or efforts down, and they're, like you said the other day, Dave, I think their keepers sometimes in the past, you said their keepers had a worldy game there, whereas we're just not converting chances.
It's like you say, we've got, you know, the statisticians out there, the Optibum boys. They'll all be saying, well, look how many attempts we've had. Blah, 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 blah. They're not attempts, they're half chances. How many times were we in on goal where you thought, oh God, we should have scored that? Never. And all the possession, it's in non-threatening areas. It's into Salah, back to Trent, back to Gini, back to the centre half. It's too slow and it's too laboured.
I was watching this Harvey Elliott video of his assists and goals at Blackburn, and he has put some balls on a plate, but then it goes to these 2 assists where he's passed it about 40 yards out from goal. Harvey Elliott's passed it 5 yards to this player, and the player's gone on a run. He's had the ball for about 7 or 8 seconds,
but it's his assist,
and the counting it as an assist. It's like the stats are a bit skewed on the assists.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you win the penalty, you get an assist. So did Mo Salah get a goal and an assist yesterday? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, by the old logic, yeah.
It makes no sense, but just on Elliott, just on a quick side note, he looks like he's filled out a bit this year, like physically. He's definitely got enough about him technically. And we've got players that are out there on loan that could be doing a job for us at the minute, because people are quick to talk about the injury crisis and everything else now. I know it's easy to say, but the 4 games Van Dijk played for Liverpool, we conceded 13 goals. The 4 games we had without Van Dijk, we conceded 3. Now, no one's saying...
Van Dijk out!
Exactly. No one's saying that. But what I'm saying is, it's not about the amount of goals you're conceding. It's more about when you're not playing well, the amount of goals you're scoring. And if we were scoring goals and the strikers were flowing freely, we're not conceding loads of goals. Like, I know we conceded 4 yesterday, but most games it's 1, isn't it? 2 at an absolute push. If we were scoring like we normally score, our average goals per game used to be 4 goals a game. We'd score. We'd still be winning games. You know, it's not all about the defence. It's about the attack as much as anything. And I'm not sure what's going on with Wilson. Is he out on loan again? Is he this year?
He's at Cardiff City.
So there's him out on loan. There's Elliott out on loan. I'm not saying he's great or anything like that, but we're struggling to score goals and we let Taki go out on loan to Southampton. Some of our decisions are just silly. And we've got Grujic out on loan at Porto. Tell me he couldn't play centre-back. He's fucking 6'4", solid as a rock, great on the ball. He had a good pre-season. But we just overlook certain players and disregard them. Like Wilson hasn't even had a chance, has he?
No, all he needs is he needs a permanent transfer away or a run in the team. Like, he can't do anymore. I remember going to under 23 Tottenham game, and 2 minutes in he scores. He lobbed the keeper, like ran in on a bouncing ball, put it over the goalie, and we beat Tottenham 4-2, and he scored a hat-trick in it. Like, doesn't have any special attributes where he can pace anyone, but he's just a natural finisher and he's proper clever. I said to you, he reminds me of Antoine Griezmann, like that type of left foot and small and just...
He's got a wand, hasn't he?
Yeah, knows where the goal is. Good at free kicks as well.
Remember though, after that game when he got that hat-trick in the reserves, you got his name on the back of your top, didn't you? You were like, he's going to be the one.
I haven't worn a top since I was about 7, but yeah, I'll have to borrow yours next time for footy or something.
Going back to the goals. Going back to the goals though, like last season we didn't score a lot of goals, did we? And you know, they were obviously unbelievable, the team. But it was only really the Leicester performance, wasn't it, where we blew someone away, and when Klopp come in, it was all about goals, and it was a case of just we'll score more than you.
Yeah.
And then he probably sat back, didn't he, after 18 months or 2 years and thought, not going to win the league doing this. Brought Alisson in, brought Van Dijk in. They were absolutely professional last year, but it's because they got the confidence to say, well, we're winning 1-0. And we know we can just shut up shop, or we're winning 2-1, whatever it may be. There was a lot of 1-0s and 2-1s, wasn't there? Whereas seasons before, it was like 3-1, 4-1, like the 5-4 against Norwich, like crazy mental games. So it's just finding the balance, and we probably need to go back to a little bit more of the, you know, what we were like beforehand. And I think the only way to do that, like you say, is put a centre-back in, whoever it may be, someone who's actually a centre-back, because I think you said this today on one of the previous podcasts, there's no measure statistically for how much not having Fabinho or Henderson in that midfield is costing us. But it's definitely costing us, isn't it, if you watch the games?
Yeah.
We're either not winning the ball back as high, tempo's dropped, certainly when Henderson's not in there, but it's almost like bringing the problem closer to goal, isn't it? Which is always what Klopp's being against. Like, put the Fabinho and Henderson back in and just think that other team, they're hardly even going to get through to the defence anyway.
We're too passive in the mid, and that's what it is. Like, the reason Liverpool was so good, if you watched us last season, we squeezed the pitch so high because Gomez and Van Dijk were that fast, but nothing would get past Henderson and Fabinho anyway. So it almost didn't matter that you had Tippy Tapperoo shithouse Wijnaldum in there, because you had Fabinho and Henderson to just shore it all up. And I'm telling you now, I bet me bottom dollar, you put them in there, I could play centre back for fucking Liverpool. Do you know what I mean?
Don't know about that, but
yeah. Well, you know, I'd be in the reckoning anyway.
Pace 4.
But like, honest to God, like
they'd be getting paced by Mertesacker. 29 pace on FIFA. They'd be get back here.
He's our kid, and fucking like me twin. But you would though, anyone half or right can play in there. Like, we all know Lovren was a bit of a fuckwit, but he looked good in games playing behind that midfield. And that was one of the issues with us for ages. We didn't have a holding midfielder dedicated. As soon as we got Fabinho, but bear in mind, we had the back four before we had Fabinho, didn't we? But we weren't as defensively good until Fab signed. And then Henderson got better as well because he was playing higher up the pitch.
Yeah, this is the point I was making, where you don't need like 2 world beaters in there when you've got fucking Brighton at home. Like, they beat us 1-0 the other week. Okay, when Van Dijk's injured, it's great to have another deputy who's like not on his level, but just good as. But you don't need a fucking £80 million centre-back, do you? When Van Dijk's out, or you need someone solid enough to not fuck up because of how rare it is that we're caught on the break. Like, it just doesn't happen. But all our goals, it does seem to be like throughout the I don't know, since the dawn of the Premier League, probably being biased, but a lot of our goals are just always defensive errors and shit, typical scrappy dead ball type situation.
Look at the Brighton goal, lad. That's the only goal you need to say to summarise what you're saying. The only goal you need to see. We never score them types of goals. Like, they always bounce off the line. Like, if you look at the Salah goals against West Ham, we literally have to score picture perfect goals or we don't score. We never get a little scrappy do type of finish or anything like that. It's so fucking typical. But I think, like, I know you mentioned on the video yesterday or on one of the comments around why did we wait so late to get a centre-back. Now, the Davies one, I'm not sure about that. But the Kabak one is because Mustafi had to go to Schalke in order for them to release Kabak. So that's the reason why we didn't sign him till deadline day. Because Mustafi got released from Arsenal a day before the transfer window shut, then signed for Schalke, then Schalke released him to us on loan. Otherwise, that deal wasn't going to happen, do you know what I mean? With Davies, I'm not sure what happened with that. He near enough signed for Celtic, the deal was done, and then we swooped in late and took him, but it's certainly odd.
Well, whoever that fella was, White Tiger, someone on YouTube.
Shouts out to White Tiger.
Yeah, but nice one for commenting anyway, mate. But he said FSG out, didn't he, or something, which I don't agree with. But, I mean, you should capitalise on what we've done, like the success, because that success breeds success. I don't think FSG, though, like a few people are saying, that they're not backing Klopp. In the summer, I thought we had the best transfer window we'd had in fucking years and years because we kept everyone, which is automatically a win. Traditionally, Liverpool, in my time, we push for the title or something and then we get rid of a key player in the team. We kept everyone and signed Thiago, as I've already said. Oh, and Jota as well. What more could they have... So what more could they have done in the summer just gone, in a COVID era? We went into the season with the best Liverpool team that I can remember ever, I think, in my time. This season.
But he addressed the problem areas again, though, didn't he? I was short at left back because Milner keeps having to drop in. we'll go and sign a left back that's played Champions League football and won 2 titles with Olympiacos, laughing. Oh, he's a bit flat in midfield, need a bit more creativity. Santiago for 20 million plus 5 in add-ons. Oh, and then sign Jota out of nowhere to compete with the front three. That's all your areas addressed.
Yeah.
We couldn't have known we were going to need a centre-back like this.
I know.
Well, hindsight's 2020, isn't it? And I think if you've asked most Liverpool fans on the first day of the season, are you happy with the business that's being done? I think everyone would have said yeah. And not many would have been like, no, we need a centre-back, definitely. I know what you're saying about Kabach, but like Carragher said, that didn't he? Once Van Dijk was injured, they've got to do business on the 1st of January. But like we say, how much difference would it have made if we haven't been scoring the goals anyway, all the way through January? It could have obviously, like we're saying, pushed Henderson or Fabinho up into the midfield. But I think the difficult thing he's got now is when do you put these in? Because there's no respite now, is there? Like Leicester, then Leipzig, then Everton. You don't get a break in our league to think, oh, I'll throw them in now. And it's a difficult one with
Shouldn't he?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and I don't know if you know what when he can do it really, but he's going to have to do it sooner or later, as we've already said, because the influence that's lacking from the midfield or the ball getting one more advanced. Yeah, you should see that. Did you just watch Leipzig against United?
Yeah.
If they come out the blocks like that, like the form Trent's on, and they're not natural defenders, are they? As good as they have been as replacements in the midfield. I know Fabinho is a naturally defensive player, but I'm just a bit worried Leipzig might fucking tear us a new arsehole.
Well, last night when you're 4-1 down, bring one of them on. What have you got to lose? 9-10 minutes to go plus added on time. Bring one of them on and put Henderson in the midfield or Fab. Like, there's nothing to lose. Like, if it was me now, I'd be blooding them in the Premier League, and I'd be getting us ready for a push in the Champions League. Now, the pessimist in me says we haven't got a chance, and Leipzig probably will rip us a new anus. Just the form that we're on and the form that they're on as well, and how they play. They play like a Liverpool team when we're on blob, don't they? Essentially.
Yeah,
and it's Nagelsmann, isn't it? The gaffer.
Yeah.
Being touted as the next big thing, isn't he? The next Pep, the next Klopp, whatever you like. But get them in now. Like, what pisses me off with a lot of our fans, quite a lot of our fans at the minute, it's like, oh, well, he's not ready. And that's what's wrong with society in general. There's too much snowflakery going on. These are professional footballers that have just signed for one of the biggest clubs ever on the planet. You're telling me they don't want to fucking play the game. They don't want to come in and show what they're about. Because if they don't, fucking sack them now and promote someone from the academy that will. I just can't understand how Nat Phillips is not getting games at the minute when he literally has not put a foot wrong, has he? Maybe the Brighton goalie maybe could have done a bit better, but with all the deflections and that, you can't really blame him for that, can you? But I'd have him in right now with one of the young ones and then blood the other young one in after a few weeks training. Like you said there, Matt, maybe Davies isn't ready. He's coming up from the Championship. I don't know. Like, at least Kabach's played first team football in Germany as fucking Nat Phillips, by the way, for a season at Stuttgart. So it's not like he's inexperienced and he's 24. He's not a child.
I think it would be Kabach, wouldn't it? Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, I agree. It's basically like probably similar to what you say, but I just think though, Davis, Kabach, you're a defender anyway. You used to like that fucking Kabach is bottom of the league and he with Schalke, so he's been getting peppered all year with attackers running at him. Same with Davis at Preston. Championship is probably the most demanding league in the world. So they come into Liverpool. It's probably going to feel like a fucking breather for a bit.
It's off.
Yeah, you don't, like I say, they're going to come in. They're not going to be the best we've ever seen. But surely they're going to have a moment where they're like, fucking hell, this is easy, this. And then we'll fucking concede because they've switched off.
You'll concede because Trent will be out of position, leaving Kabach exposed. That's what will happen.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel sorry for whichever one moves in and plays on that right-hand side because part of it's the system, isn't it? And part of it is just Trent, like the Brighton goal. Whoever the big lad was who headed it back in at the back post, I don't think Trent knew he was there until the ball went over Trent's head and he turned and went, oh shit, that lad's going to nod this back in now.
I'm not saying
So,
we should all go on. Sorry.
well, that was it, really.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should all get on Trent's back, but he's clearly having a mare defensively. But then there was a pass yesterday, if you remember, where he hit it from right back to left forward, straight on Curtis Jones's foot, and it was a brilliant pass. That's the type of stuff the fans will bail him out for. Now, it didn't lead to anything. It wasn't an assist. But they'll be like, oh, you can't moan at Trent because, look, the fucking pass he done to Curtis and all this type of stuff. But it's like, you can have a rant or you can moan about a player, even if we've had the seasons we've had. Like, yesterday, for example, on Instagram, all these pages, I don't know if it's like young kids or fucking it's being run by 13-year-olds or like, I don't know, the Malaysian fan club. They're probably from over there, aren't they? But it's like, they're going, don't even think about hating on Alisson. And I just put a post on today going, look, you can fucking moan about a player and still acknowledge he's probably the best in his position. But it just does me head in when it's like, oh no, he's been boss for 2 years. It's like, no, like Trent's been terrible defensively the past month, even longer. And then Alisson yesterday lost his head. Just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, it doesn't mean all of a sudden you don't support either the player or the club all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, some people think Klopp walks on water, don't they? You're allowed to criticise the substitutions. You're allowed to criticise whatever you want and still also say he's the best manager in recent history that we've had.
100%, yeah.
The thing I wrote down with Trent, because I wanted to see for myself, where your first job as a defender is to defend, isn't it? And obviously our system, Trent's certainly the one who's probably given more right to go forward, and he probably doesn't get as much help from Salah. Although, if Salah does give it away, he does always track back if it was like his mistake. I think Mane certainly gives Robbo more support. And Robertson's not got many assists himself this season, but he's always in the right position to defend.
Yeah, 5.
But if you're not creating, then you should be defending. But I looked at his assists in the league, Trent, and it's 12, 13, and then this year he's got 3. So there's clearly a big drop off. I know we're only how many games we played, 20. But even if you double it up, he's gonna fall short of where he's been, isn't he? And then he's making more mistakes. He's just having a bad season, isn't he? But when you're that young, although he has had enough games under his belt now, hasn't he, really?
He's off form, combined with other teams, obviously now sussing us out as well. But yeah, it can't go on forever, can it? Him and Robertson just taking the piss out of the opposition.
Well, you can't rely on wing-backs to be your main attacking source. Now, I know Robbo's got 5 assists and Trent's got 3. And as Matt's just said, you watch an attack and people will think I hate Trent. And I don't. I know it sounds like I do. I still love you, Trent, if you're watching. But what I will say is he is not a defender. He's not a defender. He's not made to defend. It just so happens that on that right-hand side, he gets more time and space than he would get if he was a midfielder. And he can pick out a pass and he can do this and he can do that. But his first job's got to be to defend or even to show willing. Because, like, he doesn't bust the gut to get back. He's stroppy and he's petulant. And he's got, me and you said it the other week, Steve, he's got Dele Alli syndrome. It's almost like he feels he doesn't need to really try anymore. And I like that pass he played out to Jones. That's why I think he should play in the right side of the midfield 3. And honestly, as controversial as it sounds, at this point, I'd be slotting Milner or Tsimikas in at right back, and I'd be trying to push Trent into the midfield because he's costing us too many goals this season. And not only the amount of goals, the amount of chances we give up down that side that don't lead to goals but could. It could be so much worse, the amount of chances that he gives up. So I would have him in the midfield 3 sooner rather than later. I'm not even saying he guarantees a start because I know you don't think he's good enough to play in the midfield, do you, Steve? But I think he's the risk to reward ratio in that area for him. It's better for his game, provided he can get the space and he won't cost us defensively.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be a world beater at centre mid.
None of our centre mids are.
That's true. But I don't think his technical ability is enough to really transition into a midfielder at the minute where he could stand out and influence games either. But I agree with you. If it means the risk-reward ratio, the risk depreciates and then the right side's a lot more secure, then I would move him into midfield. Having said that, if Wijnaldum's leaving this summer, the natural one who should be ready to go there, if he can get form, is Keita. But I am intrigued. Well, actually, they're not going to move him to centre mid, but it would be intriguing if they were acknowledging it to Trent, saying, hey, Wijnaldum's moving on there, would you fancy a crack in the midfield? I'd like to see him in the midfield to see what had happened, but I've just got visions of him playing right centre mid and trying to pick out Mane all the time. Sometimes it'd come off, sometimes it wouldn't. That's pretty much it, really. I mean, how do you think he'd play in the midfield?
I think, for one, he is a right back. So if he did move into right centre midfield, he would still offer some cover defensively, although, sporadic at best. Yeah. But at least he wouldn't have to be in the deep lying position. But for me, when he's at his best, it's not when he's crossing the ball. It's when he's on the inside right, and Salah, this is dead specific, Salah's back to goal inside the 18-yard box, and Trent's not putting high passes into him. He's putting passes that aren't along the floor, but are like curved. Like he has his body open and he just curves these passes into Salah. And when Salah's got his back to goal and he's got the striker pinned, Firmino drops off, Henderson and Fabinho push up when we're at our best, and we create chances. And then when Salah does have the box there, Trent can get down the outside, but he's not doing that because he's not getting high enough up the pitch. That's what's funny, because you said yourself, his heat map must be like a this much and blue. Like he just literally is roaming like 20 yards either side of the halfway line. He's not getting back and he's not getting forward. And there was one moment yesterday when he got right up the right-hand side against City and he just roasts the defender with a bit of skill, just drops his shoulder and he whips a pass in. And it comes to nothing, but it was quality. Do you know what I mean?
A goal.
Yeah. Mane should have scored, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Battle the header, yeah. He should have hit the target.
That's where I'd like him to be. I know that's very, very specific, but if you're thinking like he can shuffle across quick enough, he can play deep, he could play in the 6. You were saying about Thiago, you'd like to see Thiago in the 6. Yeah. Trent could play in the 6. He's miscontrol the pass, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's quick. And lately, when you're looking at him, he never seems like he goes into 5th gear, sprinting to bust the gut. Now, I might be wrong. He might actually be doing that, but it just doesn't look like that. But you see Robertson on the other flank really, like, putting his heart on his sleeve, like sprinting to get back or sprinting to get forward. Maybe it's credit to Trent's, vision, because he runs with his head up, doesn't he, even with the ball. But he just never seems to sprint, like, willing to die in that moment to get back for the ball. I know that's extreme, but the way Robertson is, that's something I notice with him. Like maybe
we could even go with to 3 centre backs.
Yeah, could
play with high wing backs and overload the midfield that way. Because we could easily say to Hendo or Fab, look, one of you is staying at centre back, but next to you you're going to have Kabak and Phillips or Kabak and Davies when they're ready. And overload the midfield that way. And then you still got Trent on the right-hand side and Robbo on the left, but you're more solid defensively. And they've got more license to get up and down.
100%. That is the one thing that pisses me off with Klopp, is the refusal to change tactics every now and again. Just because we'll win again with this formation, and then everyone will be like, oh, I told you. I told you were wrong. But it's like, I just wish if we had Burnley next week, he'd do the same thing, the formation, and it wouldn't be, all right, you know what, Dyche has fucking nullified me here the last few times. I'm going to try something different. It'd just be so, like, resistant to it all and stubborn. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, really. His hand's probably being forced now because, like we've said, he's tried Henderson and Fabinho. He's tried, it was Henderson and Matip, wasn't it? And then Phillips has come in. So you think, and it's not working, and we're not chipping loads of goals, but it's what we're losing at the other end, isn't it? So
100%.
I think I wouldn't be in a rush to get Trent in midfield myself, only because I don't think he's in the top 3. I'd just be getting Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago, and I'd have Henderson sitting or Wijnaldum and get Thiago a bit further forward, because I think he is probably the one with the most creativity, and then Kabak and Phillips or Kabak and Davies, whoever it is. So I know that's kind of keeping the system the same. But Thiago hasn't played in that midfield yet.
He has against Everton.
Oh, one game.
And you know what we did? We battered them for half an hour until Tiny Arms ruined our fucking lives. We dominated that midfield for half an hour. It was a piss take how dominant they were. And by the way, that was against a very strong Everton midfield with Alan and James in there.
That's why Thiago must be so pissed off. Like he got hit with that tackle, didn't he?
Yeah.
And, was that his first game? Was it Everton?
No, second game. First game was
game. So I think he just thinks everyone's out to hurt him, so he just does it first, like the sly little Spaniard in him.
I never thought we'd have an issue. I was saying to you, and I, Matt, I never thought like we'd have a hatchet man on our hands with fucking Thiago. Just that was everyone.
It was mad, that one yesterday. It wasn't a disgusting tackle, but it was just like, why have you done that there on like the halfway line? It was such a weird tackle from him. And like you say, I thought we'd have another one out of him, like comes off as clean as he goes on. Hardly ever goes to ground. But clearly not. He's got that Spanish blood, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. Like, my suggestions are always outlandish. They're like things that are just never ever going to happen. Like, they could work, but they're never going to happen. It's Klopp, you know what I mean? He's just not going to do anything. Obviously, he doesn't care what I say, but he won't even return me calls anymore. But you probably best just get the best team on the pitch and then hope they can work it out themselves. But it's okay to change tactics now and then. Like, I remember one time Chelsea were playing someone, I think, they were getting beat 2-0 at half-time. Steve, I think it was around 2005-06. And Mourinho made 3 changes at half-time, and he won the game something like 4-2 or 5-2 or something mad. Like, I'm not saying you need to be that drastic, but you need to show some bottle, don't you?
A bit like, although his hand was majorly forced, Benitez against Milan. And that is an unfair comparison, because, like, not many are going to do that, but fucking hell, 3-0 down, right, Haman, you can come on, and the rest is history. But it's like what I said about one of the best examples is Mancini with Man City that year, where he'd take a striker off, I believe, and he'd bring Nigel de Jong on, and that meant Yaya Toure could bump forward. And there was a couple of games where they were drawing half an hour to go, 20 minutes, and he'd done that exactly. So he'd take I don't even know who they had up front then, let's say Balotelli. He'd take him off for de Jong, and the commentators would be like, he's taking a striker off. It worked. And yeah, just a bit of that, it'd be nice. But like, we're going to end up fucking going round in circles, because that just brought me back to when he brought Milner on yesterday. So
yeah. I'm surprised more managers don't make a change at half time. And people would say, well, it's because they're giving them a talking to. But you think, you've just seen 45 minutes.
Yeah.
What is going to change? Like, you're going to go out there and tell them you've got 15 more, or Klopp says you've got half an hour, because he does like to leave it quite late, doesn't he? But making one change and keeping 2 back for if someone does get injured, I'm just surprised it maybe doesn't happen more often. I think Rodgers made a change the other day. Can't think who Leicester were playing. Might have been Everton, and he made a change at half time, and it was purely tactical.
Yeah.
But he's like the Mourinho camp, isn't he?
I think it's definitely certain, though, that we need to abandon playing Henderson at centre-back for the next game. Like, just get him back in the midfield. Can't be having him centre-back against Vardy, or is Vardy still injured?
No, he's come back.
All right. Well, there you go.
He played the other day as well, and he loves a goal against us, doesn't he? But I have faith. Sound like one of those fuckboys from the Malaysia fan page, don't I? But I've got.
By the way, we love you, Malaysia. You know, no,
we've got a few watchers in Malaysia, so much love to our Malaysian brethren. But I am confident against Leicester just because of how they play. Because they're like us in a sense. They don't change their game for the opposition. They're resolute in how they want to set up, and we're better at that than them. And with Ricardo being back at right back, he bombs on more than Trent. He's a quality right back, to be fair. Ricardo Pereira, is it, or Ferreira?
Pereira.
We'll have, in all this criticism that's being given out left and right, Mane hasn't been at the races, has he? Let's call a spade a spade.
Yes, you're right.
The races this year, he hasn't even looked threatening in games anymore. He was always the one that had never give up. He'd always look. Remember, he went through a period where he'd always take off Mane and leave Salah on. And Mane always looked like the one who was more likely.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what it is with Mane. Is he just dropped off? He's been at top form for 4 years. He's aged 29, is he? So it can't go on forever. I don't know.
Maybe just the games are just coming too thick and fast for them at the intensity. But I think this week will certainly help. I'm just going to be hopeful again. Like I say, I was before United. Even going back before that, I think November, December, I was kind of like, we'll just get through Christmas while we're top. And then we've got a nice run of games, the Burnleys and the Brightons of this world. And it's all gone Pete Tong. But having the week off and then, like you say, having Leicester and Leipzig, teams who maybe come out and fancy themselves, might just leave us that little bit of room in behind. And, hopefully we can do some damage. But yeah, I think Henderson's got to go back into the midfield because so much tempo and whatever else it is just seems to evaporate when he's not there, doesn't he?
I don't think you can get away with, I'm not having it that people are blaming the lack of tempo on Thiago. I think that's just idiotic. But I don't think you can get away with having Milner, Wijnaldum and Thiago in the midfield together because the three of them haven't got loads of tempo. Like, they don't get the ball and swaz it out, do they? Like, Thiago will get it and put it somewhere you don't even know where it's going to be. And I think at the minute the players are still trying to adapt to that. I would like to see a bit more of him, but I've defended him to the hilt, and I'll keep doing that. But you can't have it with Wijnaldum. I mean, looking at that game the other night, how many times did he get the ball with no one around him? He done 3 pirouettes on it and passed it backwards when he literally could have turned and moved into the space. But if you got Henderson in there with Wijnaldum and Thiago, he'll keep it moving all the time. And then you can give Thiago a bit more license then, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to be very careful, haven't you, who the other two are that you play Wijnaldum with, I think, because he did it yesterday where he picked it up and ran for 35, 40 yards. And you just think, I know you can't, he's not a Yaya Toure, is he, where he's probably got 10 of them in him a game to do that, but you can do 2 or 3, or there was one where he gave it, he was slightly under pressure, and Thiago was about 5 yards away from him, and it was almost like, yeah, you have it, and then you deal with it from there, instead of just, he's so good, isn't he? He'll put his body in on the way, he'll keep possession and things like that, but in terms of offensive output, or the assist before the assist, or things like that, which I know that's a bit of a weird thing, but I just don't think he understands sometimes Wijnaldum that he's there to help us offensively as well. Sometimes he gets too bogged down with I'll just keep it moving and I'll do the hard work that everyone likes to refer to. But maybe in games like City, you probably do need him. If he wasn't there, you'd just think, oh, fucking hell, Foden's running him up, or Gundogan or whatever. But when you're playing Burnley and Brighton, he's not going to drop a shoulder and go past someone because it's almost like he won't risk it.
It does my
so I just think, especially if he's going, get used to without him. He's been a good player. Like you said on the last one, I'd keep him in the squad if he wanted to stay. But he's aging on as well, isn't he, Wijnaldum? So
29, yeah.
Get Jones in playing and getting used to the high week after week football, and like you say, Keita coming back as well.
Yeah,
I'd start getting used to get the team used to playing with no Wijnaldum.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of his personally, just not my kind of player. And a few people have said, how can you not like him? I just don't like that type of player, but I appreciate he's been a massive cog in what we've won. But it's that specifically, arguably, when he's driving at the opposition, I don't think there are many better players in the team at it than when he decides to do it. He's very hard to stop. And then he does get into the last third and shits himself. And it's like, mate, just fucking keep driving and at least get a shot off. That's
what get a foul, get brought down, something.
But yeah, it's a complete 180, and then it's passing it back to someone else. He drives forward. It looks like he's going at fucking 30 mile an hour. Gets into space and then pirouettes. His arse goes, and give it to him. And then passes he does, they're not good. Okay, sometimes they do get to the recipient, but a lot of them are just under hit and a bit risky. And it's like, fucking put your foot through it. If you're having
a shot, he's got a composure of pass. It's like he taps at it with his toe and it just goes anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he looks like an amateur passing it.
You know? Well, and sometimes it'll take him, even when he's got nothing but time, 6 tap-a-root touches to get the ball under control. And I think you're right. It's when he bombs on, in the league, I can only think of Sissoko at Tottenham that does that. you know, where he just leaves players for dead. And randomly as it is, the second best player for Liverpool doing it's probably Matip. Like, I know that sounds strange, but like when he motors on, people can't really get him, can they? But
I know what you
think
mean.
in games when you're getting beat 4-1 now, you may as well pull Wijnaldum straight off and bring on Origi, or as shit as he is, bring on someone that's going to actually shoot. Because there's no, like what Matt said there is right, yeah. If you're in that game, or it's Champions League away, or you're trying to not concede for the away goal, or whatever it might be, yeah, utilise him. But if the game's already done, there's no point in being on the pitch, because he's still going to be a coward every time.
Do you think Klopp was trying to settle for a point to bring a Milner on? Like he thought, I'm happy with that. Like we're trying.
I think those changes were, let's not settle for the point. Let's not lose this game. That's what them changes were.
You're probably right. Yeah. On Matip there as well, just changing subject to him. I think not like saying he'd have to go, but just discount him now in the centre back pool. He's clearly not reliable. It's no fault of his own, but you can't keep relying on him to at least be fit or anything, or
like
be
Sturridge, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not worth the hassle. He was a free. When he plays, he's good, but he doesn't play enough. And I would put the other lads, the new ones we've got in, ahead of him, to be honest, and just work on getting them blooded into the philosophy and whatever it is. They might not be good enough, I don't know, but it's just clear that Matip, what's he got in him really? Like 12 games a year?
At a push, 15.
Yeah,
I think his average is like 1 in 6 games I looked at the other day. And where did he come from? He was in Germany, wasn't he? Schalke. His injury record there was actually quite good, because I looked at it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like he's come to us. But there's a few players who can't hack it, is there? Chamberlain, Keita's another one. Lallana was always a bit in and out, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was never a fan of Lallana. Chambo, I think it's just, again, he's run out of steam. Like maybe too many injuries have taken its toll. He's an explosive player, isn't he? He's another one that loves to drive. But he hasn't done it for 18 months. You know,
would you remember when Klopp signed for Liverpool and there was a string of injuries when he fit over the first 6 months? And everyone was saying
training, didn't he?
Yeah, his training methods were too intense. And that still might ring true now. I mean, you might be a player like Mane or Salah, like touch wood for Salah, but he's just like body beautiful, isn't he? He's just like a ball of muscle. He doesn't ever get injured, really. Like it's mad. Like I don't know. You just have to look at that and go, how many muscle injuries are we getting? Like all the Matip's injuries, they're never contact injuries, are they? Like he's just walking around. You'll see his big size 14s. The next minute he's on the deck.
I know.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's the same with Alisson in a way, innit? For somehow a goalie. I know he was ill the other week, but fucking hell, I've never known a goalie to get injured as much as him.
It's strange for a keeper, isn't it, to not always be there? Like,
yeah,
25 games he's missed in 5 seasons, Alisson, which is mad for a goalkeeper, isn't it? And that they're not all for us, obviously, but that's a lot of games missed for a keeper. And you know, obviously Kelleher's waiting in the wings, and he's done good when he's come in. But I think, yeah, you know, we could go around with it all day long. But it's obvious we need to start blooding in them centre backs. Or if Phillips isn't good enough, fucking sell him. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're not going to give him games, let the lad go. What's the point? I think he is good enough for us this season to defo bring in one of the young lads next to him, Phillips and Kabak, in the next game, and take it from there.
I agree.
Yeah, because we're running out of games, aren't we? So the longer you leave it, you're only going to give them, 10, you know, how many games are left in the league? 18. So you've got to think, if you want them to create any sort of partnership, you've got to be getting them in sooner rather than later, haven't you? And I don't know, people keep saying Van Dijk might be back, don't they, in March, April time, but you've got to protect. He was put in the squad, wasn't he? And so was Gomez, although I thought Gomez was definitely a write-off for the rest of the season. They've both gone into the Champions League squads, which must just be, if we get to the semi-final or final and they're available, that they'll be able to come in and play.
Would they get a medal in that circumstance? Don't you need to play X amount of games to get a medal?
I'm not sure how it works in the Champions League. There must be a rule for a certain amount of games, mustn't there?
Do you know if
12 in the league, is it?
Yeah. No, isn't it 6 in the league? Or was it 12?
It was 12 at one point. I don't know what it is, but I would have said 12.
If Gomez is fit, now we've signed, you know, Davies and Kabak, and we still got Matip and Verge and Fabinho can slot in there. He's probably the first choice cover for right back, isn't he, as well?
Gomez.
Yeah. Because he was never that great at right back. I mean, he was a left back when we first signed him. That's where he played under Rodgers. But if you think just defensively, like he is pretty solid still at right back, and he hasn't got a cover for Trent if he's playing at right back, has he? So he's got someone that can cover for him.
He gets slated a lot at right back, though. I don't know, like people but he always gets fucking slated whenever he's at right back.
Trent never does, he?
I know.
He's probably a bit Wan-Bissaka, like, or in my mind, he is where he is solid defensively, but he doesn't offer you much going forward. And that's the thing with Trent. He has got to do a lot, hasn't he? But you look at Robertson on the other side, who's got the same. He's being asked the same of, isn't he? And I suppose you just got to put it down. It's just bad form, haven't you? Which I suppose if there was ever going to be a drop off, coming this season, wasn't it?
I said yesterday, Trent specifically, if his form regained and he started being an outstanding right back, obviously, like, we'd all be happy with it, and there'd be no talk about putting him into centre mid, would there? Like, if he just started playing as he can do, he wouldn't need.
I'm not just saying that though, but I've always been critical.
He's always been touted as going into midfield, though, hasn't he? From even in the academy days, he
was a midfielder.
Plays right back, but it seems like as soon as he burst on the scene, there was this thing of he'll replace Gerrard, which he's definitely not that type of player, is he? But the game has evolved, hasn't it?
If he regains his form, and it's for the foreseeable, I'd have him at right back for as long as you can. I don't know, because there's just not many good centre mids out there, so I don't think he's one of them either. But I don't know.
There's obviously a lot of football still to be played, and like you're saying, we have criticised a few players there and whatever, but I'm really not worried about next season. I think next season we'll be right there again, to be honest. So I think just got to put it down to it's a bit of a freak season. Obviously hopefully get top 4. I think we might have to sweat a little bit over the next few games, the next few months, but I think we will possibly squeak it. Because I just think we just can't continue to play this badly. It's what I think, if he does make a few changes. But I think next season, when everyone's back, I'm not saying they'll be back to how they were, but I think you won't see form like this again.
I was commenting on something today on Instagram because it was somebody put a positive post up, which we've seen a lot of over the past 24 hours, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it basically said Liverpool still unbeaten at Anfield. With a crowd in over 4 years, like it was proper reaching,
clutching at straws.
But the only teams, in my opinion, that have been affected by not having a crowd is us and Sheffield United, because all the other teams crumble under pressure. I mean, I even commented and said Man City have had record attendance since lockdown, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Because they can't fill a fucking stadium anyway. But like United, look at their form since the fans stopped.
Neville said it about United, didn't he? He said they're getting extra time. They're not getting the jeers and the hurry-ups when Maguire's got it and he's just passing it sideways. So Neville's commented on himself. And Everton, they'll say we're better, but they're probably better off not with a crowd.
Everton got booed. They got booed when United beat them in the Cup, when they had 1,500 fans in the Gladys Street. I watched it live and Everton were booing. They've been back in the stadium 2 games. And you're fucking doing the how can you do that? Like you're
so grateful to be back.
You would be over fucking joyed just to be in the stadium. Boo! You're like fucking hell. So all these teams that just haven't been affected by it, but like we have been affected massively. Sheffield United clearly have. And you'd even say like Leicester, because look where they were before the break.
Yeah, 2 sides of the coin, isn't there? Obviously, our injuries have hampered our season, but you can also say playing without a crowd is a true representation of the best footballing side. So it showed last year that Sheffield United might really be a bit shit, and it was the crowd that saved them, which is no surprise because it's Sheffield, innit? But 2 sides of the coin.
But that's the thing why City are going to piss the league, because City are playing like they train, no pressure, just pinging it round. Whereas if they would have come to Anfield yesterday and we were all outside again, Steve with his 3 cans of Red Stripe going off his head, they would have crumbled again. once they heard the crowd there, and I don't think you can underestimate that. And for all my jibes at the dickhead Liverpool fans that have never been the game. Do you know what I mean? They're the ones that I'm giving shit to. If you pay for a ticket, you deserve an opinion. And someone will go, well, I live in Malaysia. Honest to God, we're not having to go in Malaysia. Someone will say,
what have they done?
God damn it.
I live in Malaysia, I can't get the game. Yeah, it sounds. Well, you can still have your opinion, but don't tell me you know about the cop, you know about the atmosphere, because you don't.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair, but I was going to say every fan has got an opinion, and that's the problem, isn't it? Every fan's got an opinion, but that's the whole point of being a fan, isn't it? City are doing so well because the financial cheats, aren't they? So you look at the bench and you think they're the only one who've got a squad probably to manage with the season that it has been, like condensed games and all that kind of thing. But and I suppose it goes back to like we should be happy in a way, really. Like I don't think any other team would probably still be where we are in the league if they'd have had the same amount of disruption, same amount of losses to their side. Probably only City would be. And maybe it's because we were so bad when Klopp came in that the backup still isn't there, because he's had to focus on, I've got to improve this 11. And now last season, like you say, with the few signings we made, the likes of Jota, getting Tsimikas in, he's probably thought, right, I can start beefing the squad up now to get a bit more like strength and depth. But we've still got, even though the cult hero he is, the likes of Origi and, you know, like 4 defenders on the bench. You know, the squads. Maybe that's because I haven't seen the squad and the bench with everyone fully fit. You might look at the bench and think, oh, it's a little bit better. But City have just got absolute quality, haven't they, running right through the team, and you know, another 11 to put out there. So, and even they've dropped off, haven't they, in terms of where they were points-wise last season? I think Carragher said yesterday they're only 3 points better off. So,
well, up until
we 20 points ahead of them last season.
Exactly.
So,
up
they're
until
not the City of old, are
they? They lost more games than we had up until very recently. What if they lost 4 this season? Normally, a Man City team can't lose 4 games and win the league. Normally, no team can lose 4 games and win the league. But we've lost 5.
We lost 5, have we? We've got the league up here, I think.
Well, they were all lyrical about them. Obviously now they're waxing lyrical about them, and Leicester hammered them like 5-2 at one point.
We've lost 5, yeah, and drew 7. Doesn't read well, that does it? City have lost 2 and drew 5.
That's it. They drew 5, not lost 5. But that's
so we've lost less than Leicester. Leicester have lost 6, but they've just kept the draws down, haven't they? Like you said, you're better off losing and winning than picking up like loads of draws. Kills you, doesn't it?
Well, it killed us when we finished behind them, didn't it? By a point. And I think that's it. I think you've got a bet on, haven't you, Matt? The current top 4 will be the top 4, and I do think that it will. And I'm hopeful that it will. But the implications that it would have on us not getting top 4 in the transfer market would be catastrophic, because we rely on that Champions League money every season. We're not like City and United and Chelsea with bottomless pits of cash. That's what some of the fans need to get through their heads. We're a business, and we're based on profit and loss. And if we're not getting that profit to the Champions League, to get to the Champions League latter stages, you're talking over 100 million quid, aren't you? So that'll have a huge impact on us.
I think Joss is back in training this week, isn't he? So he'll be. I mean, you've got to give him a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 games, whatever, to get back to where he was. But if he can show even half the form, because he was pretty much a goal a game, wasn't he?
He was carrying us, weren't he, at one point?
Yeah. So it's a lot to ask him to come in and do that. But I think it'll just allow the front 3. Everyone's saying, Andy, it's the same side week in, week out. Then be able to give Bobby a break, or even Mane if he looks like he needs it, and give Jota, who might just bag, and then all of a sudden spirits are lifted, aren't he?
Yeah, he's different as well, isn't he? Than the other 3, he makes different runs.
Yeah,
he's left foot, right foot, whereas Mane and Salah are both predictable, aren't they? The way they always cut in, more so Mo. But I said to I think it was Steve, I'd be dropping Firmino, and I'd be fully fit. I'd be playing Salah down the middle, Jota on the right, Mane on the left, and then I'd play Firmino in the 10 behind the 3 of them, or bring them off the bench for impact.
Yeah,
that works. I think it might be the same though. As how many times has Salah played down the middle?
Not a lot. He always goes in the middle at some point in the game, but whenever he starts in the middle, I just think we look so much more dangerous because, as I said to you, when he's got his back to goal, he doesn't half make it stick, and he's won a lot of penalties that way. And when he can spin and shoot, he's always. I always find him less dangerous when he's running at a man than when he's got the man pinned.
It would be interesting to if you could like see two parallels what a Salah season down the middle would be like compared to him on the right. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Yeah.
Well, if it weren't for VAR, he'd be on 19 goals now.
Not bad. Well, I mean, we know how good he is on the right. We know how good he is on the right, but yeah, down the middle would be interesting. I don't see him down the middle. He doesn't seem like a natural enough mover, but he proves everyone wrong, doesn't he?
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say was Roy Keane said they need the worst title defence ever.
Bad champions, he called us, didn't he?
Well, it's not because Chelsea won it in 15 and finished 10th in 16.
Yeah. Well, he loves to say, don't he, do me a favour, Roy Keane? You just think,
oh yeah,
that is just a United pundit saying something like that, isn't it? Because, like you say, there's Chelsea. But United finished like 7th, didn't he? Well, that was after the year after Fergie left. There's a reason for drop-offs with all of them, isn't there? But he acts like we're the only team to struggle the season after we've won it, and it's such an easy thing to say, like, oh, you've not challenged again, which is disappointing. But with everything that's gone on, to say we're like bad champions, like freaking hell.
Well, that's what they're paid to do, isn't it? Like, they very much, they lack rationale, a lot of the pundits, and they're just there to be reactionary. And I think you said yourself a few months ago, Roy Keane's almost a parody of himself, and he knows it. It's like, yeah. So it is always like, oh, do me a favor. You know what the Irish sound like. That
sounded more like the Malaysians fans.
The Malaysians.
If you talk about, like clickbait or headline and Talk Sport had a fan, it was probably like the fucking co-producer or someone. But a fan rang in to say Klopp out.
Oh yeah.
It was Steve.
I was trying to get clicks.
That is Talk Sport summed up, isn't it?
Yeah, the rats. Like I mean, you've got to give Neville his due, haven't you? He is very rational, and he can break a game down with tactics. And so can Carragher, to be fair. Even when it's not. I think Carragher wears his heart on his sleeve a bit more than Neville. I don't mind Micah Richards. I mean, he couldn't hide his joy yesterday. Fair enough. He's a fan of Foden. He's a City fan, and Keane does make me laugh. But I think it's difficult to say with the worst champions because the points differential is so big. Because the points difference last year wasn't. It was a freak. It was a freak points difference.
It's an outlier. Last year's an outlier. Like I said that before, but
and you've got to bear in mind now that points difference. Our form since lockdown shit. By the way, if we would have stayed on form, that points difference would be about 12 points more this year. It would have been stupid. Because if you look at the fixtures going back from the first game from lockdown to now, we've barely kept a clean sheet. I was looking at it last night.
Yeah, anyway. Go on.
It was the Palace game, wasn't it? It was
the one good game.
I said the Leicester game. We blew someone away, but it was the Palace game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
unbelievable. And that was the only real performance we had when there was no fans there, kind of thing.
Yeah. See what happens anyway. Next 2 games, innit? If we only get like a point out of them, then fuck knows, it's dangerous territory then. But hopefully we get two wins, 2 W's.
If results go against us, we'd be 7th though, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it's strange to actually look over the shoulder again, isn't it? Like, after focus on the league, because we just have a year's break from it, didn't we, pretty much?
Yeah.
Where you were like, yeah, what's up? And no one's catching us. So it's strange to go back to, like, where are we in the table? And if they do that, if we do this, what happens? But there's plenty of games left. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. But I think, like we said, get the centre-backs in, get the midfield a bit back to what it used to be, even if it is just Henderson, whoever else. And I think they're bound to put a bit of a run of games together, surely, hopefully.
It'd be nice just for some moments, wouldn't it? Like, just some moments to look back on the season and go, oh yeah, we finished top 4, but we twatted Everton there, didn't we? Or we done this, or we done that. Because we're not, if we're honest, we're not winning a trophy. We really should have tried to win that FA Cup. I know we had United and all the rest of it, but that was the trophy for us really this season, where we could have won that if we switched on a bit more. But I don't know what we'll do. I think we will get top 4, and I think that'll be it.
Well, yeah, I'd pretty much agree, but just you never know with us in Europe. Like, we'll see how we play against Leipzig, innit? So.
Well, there's where these centre-halves are fucking boss. You know what I mean? You don't know. Like, look at that lad at Tottenham, Rodon, is it? He signed him from the Championship. He started every game for them, more or less. He's in the back 3 now all the time.
I'll have to have a look at him. I'm not sure what you mean. At first, I thought you meant Region. I thought you mispronounced it.
No, Rodon. He's like young. I think he's British. He's got like tattoos and that. Looks a bit chavvy, like, but I won't hold that against him.
Well, one of your own then, innit? So. Well, sound then. I mean, not much else to say, is there?
No, I think we're all right, aren't we? Well, anyway, Mark, I froze at the start for some reason. Not with nerves, like me tech let me down.